Good evening. Everybody's having some great conversations. It's nice to see smiling faces. Welcome to our little do to celebrate 60 years of the Alberta Wilderness Association. Going right away. First, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the lands where we work, play, and renew our spirits. We live, work, and play on the traditional territories of a rich tapestry of many Indigenous peoples. From the traditional territories of the Denipa and the forests and lakes of northwestern Alberta to the Niitsitapi people of the northern Great Plains, where I do a lot of work in the south. We appreciate being welcomed to these lands by our Indigenous brothers and sisters. I am complicit in the ongoing harm to Indigenous peoples through the colonial systems in which I live and work, so land acknowledgement must be reinforced with good work and good ways of being. We are all treaty people. I have a duty to ensure treaty promises are kept. I must act in ways that support Indigenous peoples in realizing their aspirations for their skies, lands, and waters. AWA's work to conserve Alberta's natural heritage and its wild inhabitants is a critical part of reconciliation that is forward-looking, equity-seeking, and honest. In discussing the spirit carried in land acknowledgement, Cindy Provost, Matrawasaki, or Sun Woman of the Piikani Nation, recounts that the elders say we carry the lived experiences of our ancestors, those who have persevered so that we and the people that will come after us can live life in a good way. Our stories are carried in the land, in the rocks, in the root people, in the four-legged ones, and in the lakes and streams. Our whole environment coexisted so that there was a kind of harmony amongst all beings. We were capable of seeking treaties with the land to sustain our lives, and we were capable of seeking treaties with each other to preserve life. We breathe life into these thoughts when we do land acknowledgements. Next, I would like to thank our sponsor, 88 Brewing Company. Your support is greatly appreciated. And it is a great pleasure that you are all here to celebrate with us tonight. Some people say environmentalists don't know how to have fun. Let's show them they're wrong. In Montana, some disparagingly say there are three kinds of environmentalists: tree huggers, fish kissers, and prairie fairies. I am proud to embrace all these monikers and to have been associated with this great group of whatever we want to call ourselves. This is some of the toughest work I know, and we need to look after each other, taking time for nature, family, and friends. A few housekeeping items. The last call for drinks is 2 hours away at 10. I don't know where the washrooms are located, but somebody can point them to me right around there. And there is no smoking except somewhere way outside. Parking lot. And the exits are clearly marked, but we hope we don't have anything like that. We have a silent auction that will close at 9:30. Lots of items and experiences to see over there. And I'd like to give a shout out to Sarah for her AWA timeline on the wall. So after we're done with our if you haven't had it up, you can go there. And also for slideshow of the history that's running all night long here. Make sure you have a look at that and that. Speaking of our history, our next speakers, Christyann, Olson, and Vivian Pharis, go back to the very founding, beginning of time, as we say, of the AWA in the 1960s. They have had to lick the wounds from the losses but got to revel in some major successes along the way. They helped shape the AWA and put it on a solid footing, both as a force for protecting our wildlands and waters, and as a place of welcoming friendship, where we can get together to discuss emerging issues or go out on the land and water to experience the best that Alberta has to offer. Both served lengthy terms on the AWA board and in many volunteer roles, and Christyann was our much-loved executive director for over 2 decades. Please welcome Vivian Pharis and Olson to tell us a little bit about that journey. Put that microphone down for you.
How's that? Does that work for us?
Yeah.
You guys hear us? Okay. No?
That's easy.
Vivian doesn't need glasses because she made it in very big print with gold. So we both wear glasses whenever we do. We're really pleased, and thank you for inviting us both to be here this evening. Clint asked us to tell you a few stories, to recount pivotal times in AWA's history and to remind all of us how and why AWA came to be one of the most respected associations in the environmental conservation movement. AWA's early founders knew they wanted and needed to defend wild Alberta through awareness and action by inspiring others to care. And that mission statement has lasted the test of the 60 years. We have not wavered or changed the mission. And as we prepared for this evening, a flood of memories, some not so great times, some scary times, and some amazingly proud moments led us to decide it was important not to simply recount the stories for you, but to pull it together in a way that defined AWA's mission and how that mission has been achieved. So we hope you'll enjoy the evening presentations. We want to inspire you, those of you who have the responsibility for AWA today. The board of directors, I see quite a few of you here tonight, the staff you hire, the volunteers, the members, to be true to AWA's founders and the far-sighted vision they had for wilderness and wildlife in Alberta. We're just going to tag team it a bit.
All right.
And we're likely to get our pictures.
Yes, AWA began with a group of feisty ranchers, hunters, and hikers, people who lived in the southwest corner of the province. And these people cared. They really cared about the land. Bill Mahowski, Steve Dixon, Andy Russell, or maybe some names you would know that were the very beginners. They agonized about the disappearing wildlife, about new roads through the wilderness, and habitats being spoiled by roaring, fuming engines. They were infuriated and decided to defend the southwest corner, its wild spaces, and they organized down there into first part of the AWA, but they soon realized that they needed a broader movement. And in the late 1960s, they held an organizational meeting in Calgary. And Christyann and I sort of entered the scene about this point, because we were the new wives of whose both of our husbands attended that fortuitous meeting. And mine came home to tell me he just joined the AWA and was now its first vice president. And I said, what in the hell is the AWA? Not knowing that this organization would consume my life for almost 50 years. For a good 50 years, actually. And now Christyann and I are here tonight as perhaps the last of those first people. AWA's first major undertaking was to help shape a coal policy. something that's probably near and dear to all of you. Upon his 1971 election, Peter Lougheed promised to control the coal industry that was devastating the eastern slopes. Then, AWA's president was oilman and sheep hunter Floyd Stromstead, and he and my VP husband, Dick Pharis, flew with Peter Lougheed over the headwaters of the eastern slopes between the Bow River and the Old Man, so that Peter Lougheed could see where AWA's key interests lie. And following that, outdoorsman Grant McNabb was president during the coal policy hearings, and these began around 1972. It was not publicly known, really, and still isn't, just how much AWA influenced that policy from behind the scenes. The stories have not been told. The resulting coal legislation was for many years considered the best environmental legislation in Canada. Then hard on the heels of the coal policy came the Eastern Slopes policy, where AWA was again an integral part. Through the 1970s, AWA took on other important roles in our defense of wild Alberta. We secured the office space from the Youth Hostel Association, which is the same place it still is, and we made Diane Pahal our first paid employee. All right. Tag along.
The next part became more and more important all the time, because what is wild Alberta? And, you know, there's lots of good causes, lots of people calling, can you help? But we had to focus in on what was wild Alberta. So long before there was GIS and other mapping tools available, the executive and growing membership shared their expertise and their on-ground experiences and knowledge, and began to draw bubbles on the map of Alberta, places they knew were important for conservation, for biodiversity, and our health. The Wild Alberta map we came to rely on helped focus AWA's work. Thanks to Peter Lee and the World Wildlife Fund, Cliff Wallace, and Cleve. Is Cleve here tonight?
He is, I saw him.
There he is. Cleve Worshler, who defined environmentally significant areas and helped us define AWA wild spaces. As the time went on, Sean Nichols could masterfully, pixel by pixel, show exactly where a caribou herd was, or pinpoint a rare plant location, or show how industry and humans were approaching on sagebrush. We were able to share shape files with industry and government colleagues, and an understanding of the areas that were important really grew. The Wild Alberta map became a critical tool guiding and deciding where AWA's precious resources would be used.
Back in the 1980s, what a difference, what a contrast between then and now in terms of how government and industry regarded the environment and regarded their public responsibility. Reflecting on the differences is almost incomprehensible. Back then, things were not always rosy, but, for example, the Coal and Eastern Slopes hearings were conducted by an independent agency, the ECA, or Environment Conservation Authority. AWA back then had access to the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife, to his deputy, and to his ADS. We could phone and get them on the phone. In one instance, the Deputy Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife gave me his home phone number because the government was quite concerned that we would get so much press, and it was always anti-government press. So they asked he asked me to phone him at home if AWA was going to go once again to the press with a new Eastern Slopes atrocity. And I only did this once. And it resulted in the Wilmore Wilderness Park being saved from being eroded and had tourist developments within it. So back then, the press was on our side. Press conferences at the AWA could fill the main floor. The ERCB, which was the Energy Resources Conservation Board, predecessor to today's notorious AER, Alberta Energy Regulator, was in regular touch. And we were on a first name basis with the head of the environment section, with his staff, and even with a couple of the ERCB chairs like Vern Millard and Frank Mink. They would even call us to warn us of some new drilling or pipeline application on sensitive lands. And sometimes they would even advise, you know, you could call a hearing on this one. There were also mighty trying times. Ranchers who threatened to punch the face of conservationists like Cliff Wallace, and Ray Sloan, Christyann's husband, who was active as president for a while. Old friends became enemies and stopped speaking to each other as when it was decided the wild horses in Suffield had to be rounded up and removed. Game ranchers, game farmers were particularly vicious against us, as every ill that we pointed out about that industry eventuated, like the uncontrollable spread of chronic wasting disease, which we live with today, and we will for a long time from now. There were many campaigns in my 7 years as president. In 1988, Shell, our longtime adversary, applied to drill at the top of Prairie Bluff near Pincher Creek, and they built a horrendous road to the top and started bulldozing well pads. About a dozen AWA members tore up there to the site, and then we blockaded the road and we blockaded the bulldozers. And I was even lifted off the ground by a dozer blade as I sat on a dirt pile. They backed off when they realized they were being witnessed. And Shell got an injunction on the whole mountain. And I was served with a $100,000 statement of claim. All this because the ERCB refused to postpone a hearing over this drilling by 3 days so that AWA's key witness could attend. He would have explained that Shell could reach its target from the mountain's base by drilling directionally. And ironically, the directional drilling was already advancing enough that it could have done the job, but corporate face needed saving, so Prairie Bluff was sacrificed. Then 15 years later, Shell realized my statement of claim was still on the books. So I had not sweated this. A new generation at Shell apologized to me 15 years later and to AWA's board, and we all worked well together for a number of years in the early 2000s.
That took a lot of strength from our board and from Shell's representatives to come and apologize and be willing to work with us nowadays. Just a good result.
Yes.
The next part of that mission statement is about creating awareness, and I think that part of that, at least, is writing excellent publications. AWA has to its credit 5 books that have stood the test of time and are still referenced. From the Eastern Slopes Wildlands to Bighorn Wildland, these books became bestsellers with more than 5,000 copies of each book sold. Comprehensive newsletters, and I saw one of the old ones in a slide there. They went out to a growing and increasingly active membership, from inky Gestetners, do you remember blue ink on paper, to photocopy machines. One of Vivian's science classes called themselves Letters 11, as they often had them to collate, fold, stuff, address, and stamp action alerts. Teams of dedicated volunteers like Lee Timchuk and Margaret Main and Linda Javari for years organized, collated, and kept members contacted. The newsletter evolved, and editors like Wendy Adams, Joyce Hildebrand, Dr. Shirley Gray, and Dr. E. Urquhart helped it morph into a truly excellent Wildlands Advocate magazine. Under Ian's brilliant guidance, the Wildlands Advocate became recognized across Canada and North America, with subscribers writing to find out why their copy was delayed. Investigative, researched, skillfully written articles became its home. Another part of that creating awareness was keeping the corporate memory alive. AWA's library is the only resource that holds the stories and records of 60 years of wilderness action and awareness in Alberta. In the early days, that library came to my home in dilapidated cardboard boxes because Dick Pharis, past president, was leaving for New Zealand for several months, and Ray, my husband, was president. Those boxes were a misery, but ones we all knew were important. The documents and files helped AWA keep decision makers honest and true to wilderness and wildlife. When AWA got office space in the Hillhurst Cottage School in the late 70s, the boxes, now more than doubled, finally left my home. With the box contents, the library began to take shape on the shelves that filled the 12-foot floor-to-ceiling stacks in the corner of the main floor of the cottage school. By the year 2000, the stacks were impressive, in dreadful need of organization, as you can well imagine, and impossible to maneuver. Masterfully, though, Dr. Shirley Gray volunteered to make sense of it all, and with a few dollars from creative grant writing that Herb Carriel helped us with, we transformed the basement into what is now known as the Roger Creasy Memorial Library. The library is a corporate memory wilderness in Alberta. More recently, routine digitizing records has saved AWA from overflowing with that physical space with paper. A digital library is as vital as the paper library. Linda Javari volunteered for years keeping the library and helping others use its treasures. The library became a basis for the archives, carefully documented on AWA's website. Imagine our relief when we would arrive at a meeting with government or industry colleagues to find they had printed pages from our website archives to help them know more about AWA's concerns.
In the 1970s, Mike McIver of Banff and Ray Sloan, Christyann's man, with a band of supporters, marched down the main street of Banff to the administration building to protest development on Sunshine's Meadows. And that was only one of several major developments under proposal in the national parks, including putting the Olympics at Lake Louise. On a number of occasions, Steve Dixon flew his private plane to Edmonton for an AWA meeting with ministers, and then he came back home to his farm near Vulcan for evening chores. The 80s saw us fight the Old Man Dam, and Ian Tyson and fellow musicians brought thousands of people to the banks of the Old Man River near Maycroft. Afterwards, Cliff Wallace and I walked down 8th Avenue to AWA's bank, carrying shopping bags full of cash that were raised at the event. Those were the days. Can you imagine doing that today? Staff like Tamani Snake drove long distances, even through blizzards, to represent AWA at land planning sessions, hearings, and public meetings. Artist Zoe Preston, she was only this big, created a larger-than-life grizzly bear to use in fighting to save Kananaskis country. He was called KC and accompanied us to events for years, like the famous tower climb, Calgary Tower climbs. Nigel Douglas rallied on the steps of the legislature for grizzly bears, and with a masterful campaign led by board member Frank Calder that included a volunteer in a Hollywood bear costume hitchhiking to its last possible home along Memorial Drive. The last possible home, of course, was the zoo. All the hard work, strategies, and tactics succeeded in bringing an end to the spring grizzly bear hunt. Carolyn Campbell, here tonight, delivered hundreds of letters with attached caribou 25-cent pieces to the legislature to help the plight of the caribou. She got volunteers to make and wave hundreds of safe caribou flags.
That's just a sampling of the direct action that we took through the years. I'll tell you lots more stories, but I think we're having to watch our time.
Yes.
But we were inspired to care, and we tried to inspire others to care. Imagine the drama of public hearings with AWA's fearless Diane Pahal and Vivian Pharis, standing by themselves facing energy hearing boards and sometimes a fleet of lawyers. The two drew considerable public respect, and I might add that they were probably wearing freshly bought, off-the-rack, second-hand clothes from the store around the corner. True. Eastern Slopes hearings, though, brought standing room only crowds, inspired by AWA to really care. As many sessions, we sat on the floor waiting for our turns to speak. Folks like Richard Secord used his legal talents to eloquently defend our wilderness and wildlife and our health from the effects of Alberta's rapid industrialization. Whether the whaleback Polaris hearings or the Dunvegan Dam or on many other occasions, Richard stood with AWA's dedicated and outstanding staff caring for and defending wild Alberta. Richard Thomas, convinced to attend by me remote McClellan Lake hearings, or Ian Urquhart to be at the whaleback hearing for a day by me, ended up giving many days of their time to wait until it was AWA's turn to speak. And I can tell you that when they spoke, people listened. Clint Dawkin fought in court for good decisions in tough situations by forcing companies to be responsible for grievous environmental damage, like the old Obed mine spill. And more than one teacher like Ed Burgett, is Ed here tonight? I'm sorry he's not here tonight, but Ed's probably one of the original members who really was a dedicated supporter. He inspired his students from the AWA's earliest days to become supporters and learn about conservation, wilderness, and wildlife. AWA's goal indeed was to inspire others to care and act, and we helped new conservation groups to form, ones that focused on their community. From our beginnings, we knew it would be the individuals in their own communities that would make the biggest impact. Groups like Castle Crown Wilderness Coalition, and folks like James Tweedy and Judy Huntley focused on their own area and saw castle wildlands recognized and protected. More recently, Protect Alberta's Rockies and Headwaters formed and is dedicated to raising awareness about the environmental impact of new coal mining. Folks like Corb Lund stepped up to fight for our rivers and water. Corb held Zoom concerts. One of them, Mountains Not Mines, inspired many, including my grandson. Then 9 years old, he drew a picture while Corb was singing, and he wanted me to tell you that. It is a sketch of a hiker, probably himself, climbing a mountain only to see a mine and destruction on the adjacent ridge. Raymond is a conservationist and hopes we will all do our part to be making better decisions that defend wild Alberta for the years to come.
My final thoughts, I thought, should be a description of some of the fun things that we would do too. Back in the 80s and 90s, I had 10 horses. And between 1983 and 1993, Diane Hall and I packed and saddled them, often with the help of Edmonton's Sam Gunch. And we would take volunteers on horsepacking trips to clean old outfitter and seismic camps between the Panther River and the Brazil River in the Bighorn wildland. Each year we did a different valley. Each year we gathered about 2 tons of garbage, and that was all helicoptered out by the Alberta Forest Service. to the Rocky Mountain House down. You can imagine all the adventures we had and all the weird and wonderful things we dug up out of those old garbage pits. In 1994, we finished cleaning. The Forest Service.
Of the trouble they got into.
Oh, that's true. Many stories there. In 1994, the Forest Service encouraged AWA to adopt the maintenance of the historic Bighorn Equestrian Trail. And it's about 100 kilometers of trail that was old First Nations trail, national parks, and Forest Service trail that lies between the Bighorn and the Front Ranges. And it runs from about the Bighorn River at Crescent Falls to the Brazil River. We did this annually until 2017, when I became too decrepit to pack horses and ride those long distances.
So AWA's mission, defending wild Alberta through awareness and action by inspiring others to care, is as vital now as it ever was. And it offers hope. What we did through the years was a peppering of whatever tactic and strategy would work at the time. We were nimble and we were smart and we did our best to make a difference. And despite some really tough times, we did have fun and we did get out and enjoy wild Alberta.
We want to do that.
Yes.
We wish you well as you carry the torch, and we hope you will always remember all those, far more than we have named tonight, who forged a path and made a difference. So keep up the good work. And thanks.
See, you can have fun, and you can get a lot of work done. But it's frustrating at times, so we understand that. So keep renewing ourselves. Don't burn out. We need you all. Next up, we have the award ceremony. I'll just raise this so it won't have to bend so much. The Great Grey Owl Award recognizes volunteers for exceptional service and commitment to wilderness conservation. It honors individuals who show outstanding dedication to protect wild spaces and wildlife, like the great grey owl. Recipients are recognized for their significant contributions to the conservation effort. Well, I am proud to say that this one goes to my granddaughter, Karina Eustace Wallace. And no, I had no involvement in the nomination or the selection. She is certainly deserving, though. And she comes by her love of nature honestly. Besides her time in Mummy's tummy, bopping around the countryside, Karina's engagement with nature really began with camping on the side of a Guatemalan volcano at 5 months old. She has been on nature trips around the world with the odd playground, midway ride, surfing, and other fun stuff along the way. Together, I have rambled with her across the parkland of the Wainwright Dunes, hiked the grasslands and badlands along the southern rivers, and marveled at flower blooms in the Arizona spring. Undeterred by wasp stings, rain, snow, snakes, mosquito bites, and cactus, she is fascinated by the smallest of creatures and is a good finder. We often come over to ponder a rock, fossil, or some other interesting critter she has discovered. She still has time to be a kid and do her own exploring, even as she runs circles around us grown-ups. She is quite the chatterbox, whether it is about Taylor Swift, a turkey vulture overhead, or what she likes about Grandma's cooking. Cheese sauce for Christmas, Grandma. She is a great field companion, but also a champion for the AWA. Most recently, she has taken up raising funds for us. At 8 years old, she summited 8 peaks. We hiked up one together, but for others, she used technical gear to work up sheer rock faces. Of course, it helps that Mom is a mountain guide. Karina's goal was to raise 8,000, and I know she did better than 9. Last year, she achieved 9,000 meters of elevation gain, climbing up, 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 and the funds went up, 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 and again exceeded her goal. This year, she swam in 60 bodies of water for Watcher 60. All told, she has raised well over 20,000 for wilderness conservation. We are inspired by Karina's efforts to help the AWA keep Alberta, as she says, wildernessy. Thanks a bunch, Karina, and congratulations on receiving this year's Great Owl Award. Lindsay? See that right there? I thought.
This is for you. We're gonna get smile and take a picture, and then I think Karina has. Oh, come here.
Oh, no. Oh yeah, the 3 of us.
3 generations. Okay. You can get through.
Watch your thing. Right.
I'd just like to say thank you to AWA for protecting the amazing wild places of Alberta. As I like to say, keep the wilderness wildernessy, which means we need to preserve the land as long as we can. My favorite thing about nature is the animals like pronghorn and prairie dogs. I also like plants like paintbrush and fleabane. One time, I was hiking in the Milk River Natural Area on an AWA adventure, helping my mom and my grandpa. There were many coulees. I almost stepped on 2 different rattlesnakes. Well, not really, but it sure felt like it. We did get to see 3 rattlesnakes, one that had a strange black spot on its back. It felt like wherever I was stepped, I was accompanied by a rattlesnake. Nature keeps us coming back because when you are in nature, it gives you a new mystery that may never be solved. I may be small, but I can make a big difference on the road to keep the wilderness wildernessy. No matter how small you are or how old you are, you can always make a difference. Thank you.
Coming back to get this? She just does it for the nature. All right. Every year with the awards, we host the Martha Kostuch Annual Wildlife and Wilderness and Wildlife Lecture given by a renowned guest speaker. And as Christyann said, the lecture is meant to inform, challenge, and inspire. We present these lectures in pursuit of our mission, which is defending wild Alberta through awareness and action. It was named in honor of Martha Kostuch, perhaps Alberta's most enduring environmental advocate and a friend that we miss deeply. Martha was a people hugger and a tree hugger and a true friend of the environment. She could take on the biggest adversaries in court and win. She was instrumental in changing processes, laws, and attitudes. My proudest moment was when Martha and I took Alberta all the way to the Supreme Court in the Old Man Dam fight. With the help of great lawyers, the Piikani Nation, and many supporters, we won a landmark ruling that changed environmental assessment law in Canada. Plus, Alberta had to pay double costs. Martha said we need to truly protect our wilderness, native prairies, wetlands, and rivers, not just for their beauty and recreational opportunities, but for their biological diversity and the fundamental human needs they help meet. Martha asked us to continue to defend the environment in her memory. AWA does that every day in our work on wild spaces and the life that inhabits them. Many wilderness defenders are honored on our recognition wall at the office. They and many others who we haven't gotten around to honoring yet are the giants on whose shoulders we stand today. Tonight, we are honored to celebrate the many wilderness defenders like Corb Lund who help us in our fight. I would say that our wilderness defender for 2025 needs no introduction, but I'll try anyways. Corb Lund has been successfully making music on stages around the world for decades. He cut his teeth with a metal group called the Smalls, and he's not small, before returning to his Western roots. I first heard Corb singing the Tractor Got Stuck song, and that was great. But Corb is not a one-trick pony, and he continues to make an impression on people through his sometimes toe-tapping and often thought-provoking songs. I heard him interviewed on CBC Radio, making me appreciate even more his connection to Ian Tyson. As Christyann mentioned, Ian helped us on the legendary Old Man concert in 1989, as well as others when I was president of Friends of the Old Man River. While we didn't stop the dam, as Ian, Martha, and I would have liked, we did change attitudes, and we changed laws to better protect Canada's environment. For the last 5 years, Corb has also been making a name for himself on a different stage. At Alberta Energy Regulator hearings, in news stories, and at benefit concerts, Corb has denounced coal mining in Southern Alberta. He never thought he would be standing up against these foreign corporations, fighting to protect our water running through the landscape he calls home. I think he would rather just get back to playing his music, and I'm sure we can all empathize with that. Let's just say that, like many of us, Corb didn't really want to become an environmental advocate, or dare I say activist, but we are really glad that you did. He has used his musical talents and connections to spread the message and bring people together around the issue of coal on the eastern slopes. And as we heard, this included a protest concert with local landowners near the proposed Cabin Ridge mine site, and Coal Chilla, a virtual concert during COVID organized with the help of the AWA and the Livingston landowners, featuring Corb and Alberta conservationists, some of whom are here today. Most recently, Corb joined a long list of Alberta musicians on stage in Fort Macleod. They spoke and played to a sold-out and lively house, and I'm glad I got to go. Thanks, Lindsay. That is just some of the magic that Corb has brought to the anti-coal movement. We can have fun, but it's a big fight. Of course, now he's an expert on this issue with many other calls to help with this and that and that and that and that. So stay laser focused, Corb. We can win this one, especially grassy. Gail, can you come up and do the honors?
So I have the pleasure of presenting Corb with our Adventure Award. Corb, if you'd like to join me on stage. This is the Alberta Wilderness Defender Award that will go up on the wall. at Hillhurst Cottage. So if you're drifting through, make sure you look for it. It'll be up there with a lot of other amazing people. And we're going to send you home. I got this one, Corb. And we'd like to present you with the 60th anniversary. These are handmade. You may have seen them over there on the tables by CEDO in recognition of the 60th anniversary of AWA.
Well, number one, I wish I had the energy and enthusiasm of our young friend Vivian. Number two, my wife will be thrilled that I don't actually have to put that plaque with my face on it again on the wall of my house. Just put my face on it. This is much more appropriate for me. But number three, I guess I've been involved in this coal situation for almost 6 years, I guess. And the thing that strikes me is that I've been mostly a loudspeaker on this thing, a mouthpiece. And I mean, I've educated myself, but it's always been striking to me that there have been people involved in these kinds of issues, you know, their whole careers, right? And hearing the ladies speak tonight was fascinating and really entertaining for me, because I've worked with some of the people who were involved in the 70s logging coal policy. And we need to talk about that later. I'd like to talk about that. But it's really something that, I mean, I appreciate the award, but and I'll continue to work towards getting rid of the coal mines. But there are an awful lot of people who spend their lives grinding away in the dark, working for these things. So thanks to all of you guys. I've worked with a number of the conservation organizations in Alberta, and it's been really moving. I'm more comfortable singing than talking, so I'm going to do that. There will be some more talking, but first, let's sing. We have a family. I'm fortunate enough to be the custodian of a family ranch in Southern Alberta, southwestern Alberta. It's in between Waterton Park and Cardston. And my great-grandfather, I think he was there in 0702, and I didn't know him. He passed away before I was a kid, but one of the biggest influences in my life was my grandfather, and he was raised on that ranch, the son of my great-grandfather. And he and I rode every inch of that place many, many times as when I was a kid, and he impressed upon me the importance of soil health and grass health. And he took great pleasure every time we would ride by a neighbor's fence. He'd look down the fence line and point out how much more healthy our grass was than the neighbor's. And it was also just a point of daily conversation on what the creek looked like. There's a Lees Creek runs through the place. And it's obviously an important part of the landscape there for aesthetic and practical reasons, but just the daily discussions of, well, it was a little higher this year, a little lower this year. It was the importance of the water was impressed upon me as a very young child, and not as an agenda, just as a necessary part of life there. And his daughter, my mom, was very involved maybe 20 years ago in the coal bed methane situation. She was involved in fighting that, keeping that kind of drilling out of the eastern slopes. And Mom is she's an interesting lady. She grew up on the ranch and didn't have electricity until she was 15 or 16 at the place, and has a very old school view of things. And she's not, I don't know, she's one of those people that says, well, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. Which is the thing, actually. Our place is framed by Old Chief Mountain. You guys know what Old Chief Mountain looks like? It's very distinctive. It's a big squared off mountain, and it was sacred to Blackfoot and the Mormons, apparently, too. But my mom has told me a number of times, she said that that's as close to religion as she gets. I don't have the heart to tell that's the dictionary definition of paganism. But she's right, because when I'm up there, there's a feeling up there that's very heavy and very special. And I feel like 6 years of stress is coming out. But I love that land too. And this is a song for. Actually, before I get to the song, my dad was an advocate as well for the landscape. He was a kind of a Renaissance cowboy. His name was D.C. Lund. He was a veterinarian and a cattleman and a pro rodeo cowboy and also a watercolorist. And he was the guy that very strongly impressed upon me. Like, it's easy to love the Rockies. My mom's side of the family is from Carson area. My dad's side is further east. And he was the one that impressed upon me the beauty of the prairies, which has a more subtle but equally stunning sort of beauty to it. And so he had a big influence on me too. And this is for my folks and my grandfathers and my Blackfoot. I've got a couple of Blackfoot Kainai cousins. They're some of my favorite people. So this is for Terry and Richard and my folks. And I feel like one of those Viking warriors who stands up in the face of an enemy and sort of recites his ancestry. It really does give you strength. Truth comes out as the fire burns low. It comes to light as only embers glow. The whiskey talks, the west wind moans in the night. Dead falls gathered and the branches are cut. The kindling crackles and the smoke curls up. The small sticks catch and the bigger stove to burn. Chinook dies down as the dark descends and the pines burn. The ashes cleanse, the message smolders, is lost and finally set. Well, Connie says she's never seen the cougar so bold. They're coming in the yard and stealing young coats. They're dragging in the brush with claws sunk in their nose. The weather's been funny 30 years or so. The winter's got warm and there's not as much snow. Hear the big cats coming, there's nowhere left to go. You gotta look out for bear when you're fishing on Lee Street. They come round the bend and they'll make your knees weak. There's grizzlies where there's no grizzly bears before. Voices from the ghosts from the graves. The grandfathers tell us at the mouths of the caves. Only old chief soul and Jesus can save us now. Before love. The white man lights a big fire, stays cold. The red man's warmer, but the old man's old. The antelope seeks the buffalo in the night. Yeah, the antelope mourns the buffalo in the night. You gotta look at the bear when you're fishing on Lee Street. They'll come round the bend and they'll make your knees weak. There's grizzlies where there was no grizzly bears before. Truth comes out as the fire burns low. It comes to light as only embers glow. The antelope seeks the buffalo in the night. Thank you. Thanks. You know, I really do love this part of the country, this part of the world, and I'm lucky. I get to tour all over the place. I've played all over Europe and all over the States, Australia, Toronto a couple times. And you know, I've seen the Alps, and I've seen a lot of places, but man, I might be biased, but the Rockies are about as good as it gets for me. And I'm very proud. It's a lot of fun singing these songs. A lot of my songs are about this part of the country, as you probably know. Some of them are not. Some of them are about goth girls and gravediggers. But a lot of the songs are about this part of the world. And it makes me really proud to be a sort of an impromptu ambassador for this part of the country and sing songs about the Rockies and you know, Budapest and Melbourne and Texas and everywhere. And it's especially meaningful to do it here where people know what I'm talking about. I had kind of a game plan, but I'm just going to let this meander, I think, like the Old Man River. But I wanted to say that I've spent 30-some years doing this, playing music from my old rock band, The Smalls, to the Western music I sing now. And I've deliberately stayed out of politics the whole time until a few years ago. But I've always felt that you know, I have a lot of friends who are activists about everything, and that God bless them. That's really good. And a lot of artists are advocates for their beliefs, and I'm all for that. I think there's a spectrum of approaches to that. I feel like my approach has always been to stay out of that stuff because I think some days on my less charitable days, I think it's a cop-out, but I think it's true. I think there's a purpose for music and art to play in people's lives that's sort of above the daily current events and Sturm and drang of you know, the news cycle and all that stuff. And I also feel like sometimes it's more important to get people in a room together to have a really good experience. And I'm in a fortunate/unfortunate situation that my audience is really mixed. Politically, I have left people and right people and urban people and rural people. And one of my big heroes ever since I was a kid was Willie Nelson. And he was famous in the 70s in Austin for drawing together groups of people that were, you know, probably wouldn't normally get along, like bikers and hippies and cowboys all in one room. I'm sure it's the odd fist fight, but he used to talk about that too, and how sometimes that can be more powerful than ranting at people about issues. And there's debates about that. There's a spectrum, and I think there's a place for all approaches. But 6 years ago, and I've already given you my sort of background and expressed how I feel about this part of the country, this part of the world. Some friends of friends who are here tonight, actually my good friends now, Laura and John are here, but they called me up through a mutual filmmaker friend and said that their place was going to be threatened by some of these coal mines that were. I'd heard about Grassy, but I was another thing in the news, you know. But when Laura got a hold of me, she told me the situation that they were facing, and the Blades family also had a generational ranch near theirs that was going to be actually not just their water, but my understanding was some of their actual deed land was going to be wiped out by one of the coal mines, Cabin Ridge, and. I have a lot of, this is probably biased and selfish, but I have a lot of sympathy for generational landowners and ranchers. And sometimes they don't get enough credit for their conservation efforts. If you are the custodian of a family piece of land, you're very tuned in to the, like I said before, the water and the soil health. Anyway, they explained to me the situation they were in. And it was kind of a big deal for me to become public about it because, like I said, I've never done that deliberately. I've always kept my beliefs to myself, and they're kind of all over the map. They don't really align with any of the political parties. It depends on the issue. I'm really uncomfortable with speaking about stuff publicly that I don't fully understand. I wish there were more people that embrace that, actually. But I met with all kinds of people, and like on both sides, I met with obviously a lot of conservationists and wildlife people and people who were advocating for stopping coal. But I also met with, I don't know, the head of the Canadian coal lobby and a number of the coal CEOs. We had Zoom meetings during COVID, and I met with a whole bunch of elected representatives. And after really digging into it, I just decided this is a really bad idea. And I've said every single interview I've ever done on this. Number one, I'm not partisan. I don't like any of the parties, frankly, and I'm not impressed with most of the people representing us. And number two, I'm not against resources. I mean, this is a spectrum too. Like, I've spent sleepless nights thinking about how do we provide a good life for 8 billion people while still maintaining these spaces and not completely raping the whole planet. I don't know where that lands, but this particular issue, once I dug at the coal thing in the Rockies, it's like when you add up the pluses and minuses and the risk and reward, it doesn't make any sense. And that belief has been reinforced more and more in the 6 years that I've been dealing with this. Again, I don't have a party that I like. I don't really like any of them, but my experience has mostly been with the current people. And they just lie to me. That's why I'm not going anywhere, because at first I came into this because I had empathy for people with generational ranches like Lauren and John and the Blaze folks that brought me into this, because that's my background also. But the people that I've talked to about this in government, number one, have been really shockingly dishonest with me about it. And number two, shockingly uninformed. And they really don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They really don't. They don't know. And I'm a guitar player, and I know more about it than they do because I spent the time on it. I guess I have some sympathy for that because I understand that they have a busy job and they've got a big portfolio, but it's really whatever things have brought us to the place that those are the kinds of people making decisions about this stuff is really scary to me, because I don't get the feeling that any of them, I suspect a lot of you have been in these places and feel the feeling and know it, and know the non-verbal magic of these places. And I don't get the feeling these elected people really know about it. I think it's just another paragraph in their daily discussions. And I don't know. Now to the downside. Last night, I was at a Sequoia's party last night, and I was asked, I didn't know what there was a Q&A with some of the artists there. I was asked what advice I could give, and I had about 90 seconds to come up with, and I said, well, you should probably, if you're going to speak out about this stuff, you should develop a very robust psychological pseudo-armor, because you're going to get it from all sides. And I think I said, for the love of God, don't read the comments. But it's funny, man, because like I've had I expected some blowback from maybe the conservative side of the aisle, but I've gotten so much shit from the left for not doing enough, and it's like, and it's really discouraging, because and also with about 3 weeks after I first jumped into this on Twitter, in one day I was accused in one tweet by being so wealthy that I'm out of touch with the lifestyle of working people, and at the same day, at another tweet, I was accused of being so broke from COVID that I was taking money from George Soros. Unfortunately, neither are true. And it's funny too, because I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, because as I said, this is the first time I've waded into this swamp, and you know, I only got involved because, like, the Old Man River literally is where I drink my water from. I live in Lethbridge, and my mom drinks the water, and my friends irrigate out of that river, and our animals drink out of that river, and my family uses that water. So I've had to stress that I'm not flying in from LA on a jet to scold people. I literally drink this water, right? So I'm a 6th generation Albertan, and I feel like I have the right to talk about this. But at the same time, if that's your situation, you end up with NIMBY. I've had people criticize me for only speaking up when it affected me, so I don't know what the fuck, man. All I know is that this is a really terrible idea, and I love this land and this area, and it's this coal thing is a terrible idea. And we'll continue to fight it. I don't mean to get political, but it was really interesting hearing Vivian and Christyann speak about the 70s coal policy, because hearing about politicians like that sounds like my wife said, it sounds like a fairy tale. Like, people, they actually listened to the people? Whoa, what's that about? because, I've worked closely with a fellow named David Luff, who was one of Wahid's staffers, and he's Dave. And he's been really fascinating to talk to as well, but I need to talk to Vivian some more. I'm really fascinated by that era because that's not been my experience at all. Every time I've talked to many ministers, frankly on both sides, and the whole conversation seems very self-direct, self-interested. Like everything they say is about winning votes here, winning votes there. It's really frustrating when you're just a human being that wants to stop the water from being ruined, talking to these people, because they don't talk to you like everything. There's the screen in front of their eyes saying that, and you don't get their true feelings. You get some kind of angle the whole time, and some of them have outright lied to me over and over. And I just had. That's one of the reasons that that motivates me. I'm so pissed off with these people that I'm not going away. So hopefully we can beat this thing. And I don't know. Yeah. I was going to leave the current bummer of what's going on now till the end, but the current situation is that two things. They're currently drafting their new version of the coal policy. It's called CIMI, which is really Orwellian. It's the Coal Industry Modernization Initiative or something like that. And they're only consulting the industry on that. There's been no, as far as my understanding is that there's been no public consultation on it, no consultation with any folks like this. It's all industry driven. So that's bummer number one. Bummer number two is that we've been fighting Grassy for 6 years now, and the feds said no. The provincial AER, strangely, said no. They appealed it 2 or 3 times. The appeals were denied. The public is overwhelmingly against it, and they have applied again and received an application to explore, and they're in the process, I'm certain, of preparing an application to mine. So I don't know what we have to do and how many times Albertans have to say no to these people. And I've been accused of all kinds of things. I'm threatened. It's mostly Facebook, so it doesn't count. But I'm well armed. But I've heard so many times these people talking about this and saying that there's foreign influence, and it's so ironic. The only foreign influence is these coal companies from Australia. Like Laura and John are from Alberta. The Blades family is from Alberta. We're from Alberta, for fuck's sake. Like these people are the foreigners, and somehow we're being accused of being foreignly influenced, and it's exasperating. Anyway, we have a few arrows left in our quiver, and we're going to continue the fight. One thing I want to leave you with too is this is a tricky one, because the way current politics are aligned, there's a slate of issues over here, and there's a slate of issues over here, and you're expected to bow down to all of these issues or all of these issues. And in my experience, that's not how it works. I grew up in a rural setting till I was 17, and I've spent the bulk of my adult life in an urban setting in the arts. So I know both sides, and I know the values and positives and the negatives of a rural conservative upbringing, and I also know the positives and negatives of urban life. And it's very frustrating to me, and it's been a real tightrope that I've walked trying to convince Albertans of all stripes to be against coal. And just because of the specific situation that we're in, the left side of the votership is against coal, which is to be expected, and the current government doesn't care because it's the other side. And I got to tell you, the only people that have made it, this is my opinion, but I'm close to this issue and I believe this is true. One of the only reasons that we don't have coal mines right now is because of the open-minded conservative voters. And I got to tell you, I've spent so much time hearing one-sided vitriol and prejudice on both sides. Like I've certainly heard a lot of prejudice against those goddamn urban lefties from my friends back home. But I got to tell you, I've heard just as much prejudice from city people who lean left about the ignorant people who are right in the country, and neither are true. Like everybody has good ideas, and everybody has valid thoughts on things, and you might not agree with it all, but my policy in the last 5 or 6 years has been to, number one, try to disassociate the ideas that I hear from the mouths they're coming out of. Because even people you completely disagree with sometimes say things that are correct. And it's okay to acknowledge that. And it's okay to not be afraid of letting the other team get some points. And it's also okay, this is what I've been stressing to the conservative people, is that it's okay, I don't care who you vote for, and I don't like either party, it's a democracy, but it's okay to criticize your own side when they make a mistake. So I think it's really important that we try to listen to other people, even if we think we completely disagree with them, because I have a foot in both worlds, and they both have pluses and minuses and pros and cons, and yeah, I think it's really important, and that's one of the only things that's going to win this thing. And I need to say to the people that I work with who lean left in this coal fight, those conservatives are really important, because the current government doesn't care what you think, because they think all lefties are whatever, you know what they think. They don't care. But that slice of people who are conservative voters who also value these landscapes, who are ranchers and hunters and fishermen, and just outdoorsmen generally, farmers, irrigators, you may not agree with them on everything, but in this particular issue, there's a lot of common ground. So I think the thing that's going to win this is to be open-minded and have a broad coalition. I think I might be at the end of the rant, I'm not sure. I want to wrap up by reiterating that I'm really, this is a real honor, especially from you folks, and the 60th year anniversary really brings it home. That there's a lot of people that have been doing this with some successes and probably a lot of failures in the dark, and fighting the good fight for a long time. And I'm happy to receive this award and be acknowledged, but all of them have done a lot more work than me, so cheers. I'm going to leave you with this. This is a song that I wrote years and years and years ago, way before this current coal fight. And I said this last night at the CPAWS deal, but I've got a buddy who says, hey man, all songs are just prayers waiting to come true. So I wrote this song years ago, and I hope I didn't cause this whole situation. I'll play it for you. The original version has a line in the climactic verse about seizing your grandfather's rifle, and I took it out for the coal version because I thought it was a little too rowdy. But I've put it back in. This is my prayer. This is my home. And I'll make my stand here, and I'll die alone. But they can drill a naked mine on my smoldering bones. This is my prayer, this is my home. My water's been poisoned, and my calves are all dead. My children are sick, and the old man's been bled. They want a big coal mine right through Hawks Grove. This is my prairie, this is my home. Well, I can't blame the miners, the boys driving truck, for feeding your family and making a buck. But take a close look at the stock that you own. 'Cause this is my prairie, this is my home. Well, I ain't got the money that lawyers can buy. I don't got my own government's laws on my side. But I got this old rifle that my granddad owned. And this is my prairie, this is my home. This is my prairie, this is my home. I'll make my stand, and I'll die alone. We'll make a trail and make it mine on my mothering bone. 'Cause this is my prairie, and this is mine.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. This is,
This makes me very proud to be Albertan. I want to say thanks one more time for the award and the people who've been doing this work for many years. And we're going to keep up the whole fight. We have a couple more tricks up our sleeves, so we're going to take it to them. Thank you. Let's have fun.
You want to? Yeah, sure. Okay. Questions? You'll answer a few, but I think he said it all. But there's more to hear, so.
Yeah, I forgot about the Q&A part. Does anyone have any burning questions about lyrics or coal fights
No
or
personal
what kind of drugs I take?
I'd like to know about the arrows that you have up your sleeve.
That's we're gonna we got to keep that under our hat till we're ready to go.
I want to give away the strategy before it's too soon.
Yeah, what metal band was it?
Say again.
What kind of metal band was
It's like a blend of Sabbath and early Slayer, maybe.
Or if you got ideas on how to cultivate that open-mindedness.
No, I'm kidding. You know, it's funny because I've traveled a ton, a lot. I think it's pretty clear that the divide maybe is the biggest in the States. And I love the States. Both sides of my family are from Nevada and Utah originally, 5 generations ago. But I've traveled all over that country, played in every state, continental state. And I don't think I've ever had a situation where I have had a conversation with somebody and not been able to say, oh, well, I don't see it that way, but cheers, have a good night. Like, I think this has a lot to do with it, you know, the phones and the computers thing. Like, people say stuff online that they get punched out for saying in person. And I think that having conversations with people that you don't agree with is really valuable. You know, I think, like I alluded to this earlier, but even people that you think are completely up to lunch sometimes have a good idea, and it's important to acknowledge that. And sometimes people that you just totally respect have terrible ideas, and so it's you know, you have to divorce the idea from the speaker, and I think you have to use critical thinking and just be an empathetic human being, maybe.
Back there. I just wanted to thank you. I produced a music compilation called Hold Your Ground that you were on.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Many years ago, and at the time you said, if you put me on the side of Ian Tyson, I'll contribute, and I did that, and it was because you said it's hard to be kind of the lefty in your circle, and we were producing an activist music series at that time, so it's been wonderful to watch from a distance as you get more and more digging into your roots. Yeah. When I moved to Alberta, it was Jerry and the Sons of Rhythm Orchestra, Gina Gone Wild, and the Smalls, and SNFU that were really inspiring to me. So when I got to see the Smalls, it was an awesome thing. So thanks for being a punk rock.
Yeah, man. It was it. I'm happy to announce that we now have, the Smalls now have a tribute band, and they're really good. They're called the Shrimps. It's true, they're really good. They might play those songs better than we did. I was going to say, shoot, I had a point to make. I don't know, it's gone. Any more questions?
Are there any politicians at the provincial level that you've spoken with that you can connect with or engage with truthfully or on that empathetic level that you spoke with them about?
It's hard to know, because I mean, you know, in a half an hour conversation, it's hard to judge that. There's certainly some of them on the other side that would be in favor of this, what we're saying here tonight, but I'm not, it's hard for me to judge whether or not that's for because they believe in their heart what we're doing here, or it's because they think it would get them elected, so I don't really know. If I had more time to spend with them, I would have a better answer. I mean, some of them have said the right things, but, you know, I don't trust them.
Nor should you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Corb. I mean, you really did make this evening special, and we certainly are honored to have you. I'm on that rancher that wanted to punch me out. And Ray, we went outside, because he wanted to go outside, because he said that's how we're going to settle this. But within 3 months, we were sitting around the same table, and within 6 months, we'd come to an agreement on what to do with that piece of land. And it's still protected to this day. And he wanted to ranch bison with us on that land. The government, of course, said no. But he would come and visit me in Calgary, and he said, once I understood what you were trying to do, we were on the same page.
I think that's one of the problems, because people have I honestly even have a little tinge of that as an Albertan, but there's a certain emotional reaction that rural people have against government and people controlling them or whatever, but you have to kind of navigate your way through that, and if you do, I think sometimes they can understand what you're saying. That might have been what happened there.
Yeah, and it's sad that he passed on, but, you know, he would have been one of our best allies. But we have a great group down there now. We have our little tussles, but we're still together, and they push out all comers that want to industrialize that place and destroy it. So, you know, we've been going since the late 1980s. We had the longest biodiversity conservation monitoring program, and we brought grazing in to help with the management of the area and to get the diversity back in there, because it was so remote. The rancher who had the lease, it was 100 kilometers around to get his cattle out of there and chase them around. They just didn't bother and kept them on the north side of the river. Anyways, it's a lot of history, and I hope you've had a good evening. We're not totally done yet. A few reminders and thank yous. The silent auction is closing in an hour. The last call for drinks, another reminder, 10 p.m. I'm sure you'll be out of your drink tickets by then. But don't forget about our holiday craft event, the market, on December 6th at the AWA office. And thanks again to our sponsor, 88 Brewing Company. And to Mel Bacido at Bonus Soapworks and Cito Pottery for those lovely medallions that we're going to have, because we're going to present those. Maybe I got out of order. Yeah, what happened to What's Your 60? Too many notes. See, I had a plan too. Who's coming up? Sarah and Lindsay? You got it.
I got it.
You got it. Take it away, kid.
Hey, so I'm Lindsay Wallace. I'm the Adventures for Wilderness Coordinator at AWA. And this is Sarah, who's our outreach and conservation specialist. And so our big focus for this year has been the What's Your 60 Challenge. So we really wanted to connect people with, these wonderful places that we just spent this evening hearing about, that so many of us have really special places in our heart for. And so we wanted this year, our 60th anniversary, to be a chance for people in whatever way they could to find what their 60 was. So we had people go on 60 hikes. We had people visit 60 parks. We had a little girl who swam in 60 bodies of water, 60 pieces of art, all these sorts of things, 60 letters to government. That's Sarah's mom right here, and another lady wrote 60 letters about all why Wild Alberta was special to them, to different members of government. So today we have these beautiful medallions that were made for us by Melvicito and donated by Bonus Soapworks. And so if I can ask everybody who's finished their 60 to come up to the stage, and we'll present you all with a medal and then take a little photo. So I think we have a few. Come on up, anyone who's finished, come on.
Sarah, can I see one?
Can you? Okay. So congratulations to all the 60 finishers. Cameron, you want to take a photo?
The year's not over. You can still do a Watch Your 60. Anyways, thanks again to Melvicito from Bonus Soapworks and Cito Pottery for donating those beautiful handmade medallions. She's done other things for us, so thanks, Melba, and we appreciate your ongoing support of the AWA. So we've gone through the reminders. Market Wines also was one of our supporters, the wine that you're drinking. And thanks to our silent auction donors, we had donations from the Calgary Philharmonic, Calgary Climbing Center, Tea Trader, Lori Beatty of Fit Frog Adventures, Linda Planosi of the Three Mountain Family Hikes, Christine Makabayag of Passive Care Massage, Renz Gatus of Nothing to Worry About, Massage and Wellness, Lauren Fitch, Dale Leckie, Kathy and Craig Copeland, Carolyn Fisher, Ann Lawson, Shirley Orm, and Hallie Flagar. A blast from the past, Hallie. Is out in Canmore still, I think, and does great wildlife photography, but we've got books, artwork, photography, and please bid up on that. And finally, thanks to our founders, obviously, Christyann, Olson, and Vivian Pharis for giving us that wonderful journey through time. At least some of us know a bit and pieces of that story. And yes, the successes and the heartbreak. And also thanks to our volunteers, Marnie Anderson, Sean here, Andrew Paulson, and Terrell Laycock. As we saw in our latest newsletter, with fresh eyes on the subject, if the past 60 years have proven anything, it's the job of an advocate is never done. There will always be wild spaces and species that require our work for protection, with the ever-increasing demands on our ecosystems and stresses on the planet. As we head into our 7th decade of advocacy, the call from Karina to help however you can, and the thoughts of advocates like AWA Sarah are uppermost in our minds. What keeps Sarah inspired is seeing how much people care about protecting the spaces that she loves and being part of such a long history of passionate individuals. As Margaret Mead said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. I'll now hand over the reins to our Executive Director, Deborah Donnelly, to close out the program, and then we can get back to visiting a bit more. Thanks again to all of you for your support and for coming out tonight to help us celebrate. A big round of applause to our honored guests, staff, volunteers, and supporters.
So I just want to thank everybody for coming this evening. It is really, I guess, really empowering for us to know that other people stand behind us. Sometimes we're slogging through those trenches and it can feel really daunting. And then you get a phone call of someone saying, we really appreciate what you're doing. We want to make a donation. And, you know, something small like that can turn your whole week around. And so I am so grateful for those people, many of whom are in this audience, who give us of their time and their energies and their passion, and that keeps us going. So on that note, there are a few other people I want to thank. I'll be short. So Corb and his wife, Melissa, who came tonight, thank you so much for making this a really memorable 60th anniversary. Thank you to our speakers, all of our speakers this evening. You contribute so much to AWA. We stand on your shoulders, and I appreciate all the work that has gone before. We'll still continue that fight. To our amazing staff, can I have all the staff sort of put their hands up or stand up? Anyone who knows me knows that most of my career, I'm ex-military and I'm an archaeologist. Most of my career I've worked with men. And this is the first time in my life that the majority of my staff are women, and they are a delight to work with. Really, their passion fuels me every single day. So thank you to my wonderful staff. I really want to make a comment about Amy Tucker, who's not here this evening. Amy was hired as our communications person when I started at AWA in 2022. She's learned a lot of ropes along this journey, and she did a lot of heavy lifting for tonight before she went on maternity leave. So we are very happy to announce that she, a couple days ago, had a beautiful baby boy. And so I just want to say thank you to Amy, and then I want to thank Jill Gergulis, who we hired as our maternity backfill, who had some big shoes to fill, and she's done a great job. So thank you, Jill, for all you did to help this evening go forward. Our board of directors. So I have worked with a lot of boards, either on a board or with boards for many, many years. And I will say it just like I say almost every time I meet them, how much I love them and how they have done such an amazing job. I feel heard when I speak with them, and they give me the license to bring AWA into a new vision. And I'm so appreciative of that. So if our board members, our current board members could stand up for a moment, just so everyone could, thank you properly, because you do such a great job. And we talk about some of the lawyers that were involved in past cases, and I really want to recognize Clint Dawkin, who's also on our board and who is helping us with our coal fight presently. So thank you, Clint, for stepping up and helping us push forward on that legal front. And in addition with Eco-Justice, who always helps support AWA, and Eco-Justice has gone a long ways to sort of help us over the years on a lot of legal fronts. Our colleagues and other NGOs, and there's a few of them in the stands today, I hope you know that you are appreciated. We can't do this fight alone. And so I'm very appreciative of all the other people that work in this industry as well. It is a tough slog. So please know that you are appreciated. Most of all, I'd like to thank our members and donors, without whom we could not do the work we do. And I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart. To all of you attending tonight, thank you. I know there was a few new people in the audience, so if you're not yet a member, please join up. Every member makes our voice stronger. And AWA will continue to wade through this swamp, as Corb said. So AWA will pick it up and continue to wade through this swamp that is the mess that we currently approach every single day, wondering what new news is going to come down the pipeline. And then one last request. Can all the current and former staff and board members come to the front so we can get a group photo? It's the 60th anniversary. We want to make sure that we recognize everybody who has worked hard for AWA to be here. So I'll keep it short, but just make that last request. If you have not signed up for a silent auction item, remember, we are a charity. So we appreciate that support. But thank you all for coming. Thanks.